The WNBA thought they were making a statement. A bold, defiant, chest-puffed declaration that they didn't need the rising superstar who single-handedly dragged the league into the cultural spotlight. They wanted to prove they were bigger than one player, louder than one fan base, stronger than one phenomenon. But instead, they triggered the biggest embarrassment the league has seen in years. Because the moment they tried to prove they didn't need Caitlin Clark, the entire thing blew up in their faces so violently that even their own fans started turning on them. Overnight, ticket sales dipped, viewership stalled, and analysts began dragging the league for trying to undermine the very person who revitalized it. It started small. A quiet push. A subtle shift. Owners whispering behind closed doors. Saying things like, "The league should survive on its own. We don't need a savior." But once those whispers turned into decisions, real decisions, everything started to crumble. Games were promoted with zero Caitlin highlights. Star players were suddenly pushed as faces of the league. Marketing campaigns intentionally left out the one person driving record-breaking revenue. And certain owners insisted that the WNBA's success wasn't because of Caitlin. It was coincidental. But the fans weren't stupid. They saw the league trying to downplay her impact. They saw the stars throwing shade. They saw the media narratives shifting. And then, the moment the WNBA tried to showcase its strength without Caitlin, the moment they tried to prove they didn't need her, they failed. Publicly. Spectacularly. Attendance dropped. Engagement flopped. A national broadcast nearly bombed. And when the numbers rolled in, one executive reportedly said, "We've made a terrible mistake." But that wasn't the worst part. Because what happened next, what was exposed behind the scenes, sent shockwaves through the entire basketball world. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped into the WNBA, the entire landscape of women's basketball changed overnight. Not gradually, not slowly, not over the course of a season. Overnight. One rookie shattered attendance records, resurrected dead franchises, doubled TV ratings, and brought in new sponsorship money at a level the league had never seen. Not once in its entire history. She wasn't just another player. She wasn't just another rookie. She wasn't even just a star. She was a phenomenon. A movement. A spark that ignited everything around her. But inside the league, inside the offices, inside the boardrooms where owners whisper quietly and strategize behind closed doors, that spark started a fire. Because for the first time ever, the WNBA had to face a truth they were never prepared for. One player had more influence than the entire league's marketing machine. And some owners hated that. They hated that ticket sales spiked only when she was in town. They hated that arenas filled only when her team was playing. They hated that networks begged to broadcast games solely because she was on the court. They hated the idea that a 22-year-old rookie had become the center of gravity, the force pulling everything upward. And worst of all, they hated that she did it without their permission. She did it without their politics. She did it without playing into the league's pre-existing narratives. She did it by simply being herself and being dominant. Behind the scenes, tension brewed. Some owners privately complained that the league was becoming Caitlin dependent. Some players whispered that she was getting too much attention. And executives started pushing the idea that the WNBA needed to broaden the spotlight, meaning they wanted to reduce her shine, dilute her presence, spread out the attention like butter on too much bread. They didn't want a hero. They wanted a hierarchy, and she didn't fit into it. And so began the quiet, subtle recalibration. Marketing teams were instructed to balance coverage. Broadcasts were told to highlight other players more heavily. Press releases minimized her individual accomplishments. Now, social media graphics intentionally positioned her behind other players. But the fans saw everything. They saw the league pushing a narrative that didn't match reality. They saw the resentment leaking through interviews. They saw the uncomfortable energy between veterans and rookies. They saw jealousy disguised as competitive spirit. This all built up until the breaking point. That moment came when a group of owners met at a closed-door off-season summit. According to leaked notes, the agenda wasn't about improving the league, not about strategic expansion, not about celebrating their newfound popularity. It was about rebalancing the narrative. Or, in plain English, how do we prove the WNBA can thrive without Caitlin Clark? This wasn't speculation. This wasn't rumor. This was written down. That's when the owners made their fatal mistake. They decided to build a marketing experiment, an entire promotional push centered around proving she wasn't the driving force of the league. It was supposed to be bold. It was supposed to showcase depth. It was supposed to reestablish control. Instead, it exposed something terrifying. The WNBA had been surviving without breakout stars for years, but no one cared until she arrived. The experiment rolled out instantly. Campaigns launched featuring other players as the true face of the league. Graphics removed Caitlin entirely. Billboards highlighted rival teams with zero mention of her name. Advertisements hyped upcoming games with taglines like, "Come see real WNBA basketball." Fans caught the shade immediately. It was unmistakable, unavoidable, intentional. And then came the control test game, an event where the league pushed all attention toward veteran players. Sponsors poured money into pregame events, influencers were invited, and the broadcast team hyped it endlessly. It was supposed to prove, we don't need Caitlin Clark to succeed. And then, the disaster struck. The game was nearly empty. Entire sections of the arena sat untouched. The energy was dead. The camera angles got tighter and tighter to hide the lack of crowd. The broadcast ratings nosedived in real time. When the numbers finally came in, it was one of the lowest-rated national games of the entire season. And inside the league office, panic spread fast. Because the owners didn't just fail to prove their point. They accidentally proved her point. She wasn't just a star. She wasn't just a revenue booster. She wasn't just a media magnet. She was the engine. And without her, the league stalled. But the humiliation didn't end with the empty arena or the terrible ratings. A league insider leaked the private group chat between several owners immediately after the game. One message said, "This just confirmed our worst fear. Without her, we're invisible." Another wrote, "We need to rethink our entire strategy. The numbers don't lie." And then, the one that spread across social media like wildfire. The fans aren't watching the WNBA, they're watching Caitlin Clark. That leaked message became a meme, a headline, a rally cry, and a punchline. Fans shouted it at games. Analysts quoted it on live television. Needy commentators mocked the league's failed experiment. Even casual fans who never cared about women's basketball started laughing at the WNBA's attempt to pretend she wasn't carrying their viewership. But nothing compared to what happened next. Because the backlash didn't just come from fans. It came from sponsors. One major brand reportedly told the league, "If she isn't highlighted, we're pulling our partnership." Another asked why their ads weren't being paired with her games. Another suggested her schedule should be prioritized. Another demanded clarity on the league's position regarding their top revenue driver. That's when panic turned into desperation. That's when owners realized they had created a monster, a public relations disaster they could no longer control. But the worst part? This wasn't even the biggest secret brewing behind the scenes. Because according to a whistleblower who came forward, the owners didn't just try to minimize Caitlin Clark, they tried to sabotage her entire narrative. And when that truth came out, the basketball world shook to its core. The real chaos didn't begin with the empty arenas. It didn't start with the terrible ratings. It didn't even ignite when fans blasted the WNBA for downplaying the one player keeping the league financially alive. No. The real explosion started when the whistleblower appeared. Not a player, not a coach, not a fan, not a random burner account. This was someone with access. Someone who knew the internal conversations, the strategy meetings, the confidential memos, the hushed discussions the league hoped would never see daylight. The whistleblower sent a message to a major sports journalist with a single sentence that detonated across the entire basketball world. They didn't just sideline her. They planned it. Those 8 words set the internet on fire. Because suddenly, everything fans had been suspecting, the strange marketing choices, the awkward interviews, the league's cold energy toward the biggest talent they've ever had. It wasn't just neglect. It was intentional. Within hours, the journalist posted a full exposé revealing that certain WNBA owners and executives allegedly held multiple meetings dedicated to slowing down the Caitlin Clark effect. The article didn't reveal names, not yet, but the quotes were shocking enough to reveal the ugliness behind the curtain. One meeting note reportedly said, "If one player becomes larger than the league loses control." Another, "We must diversify attention. Overexposure of a single player is dangerous." Another, "Prioritize narratives that shift focus away from Caitlin Clark." Shift focus, downplay impact, regain control. It was a coordinated effort. Fans went ballistic. Because while the WNBA should have been celebrating the miracle of newfound popularity, while they should have been investing in growth and using Caitlin's star power to elevate the entire league, they were instead trying to bury the very thing saving them. The whistleblower wasn't finished. They revealed a bombshell. The league allegedly encouraged certain teams to avoid centering media questions around her. They were reportedly told to steer interviews back to veteran leadership and remind audiences of other stars. And if that wasn't bad enough, there were claims that some teams were instructed to avoid scheduling promotional appearances that overemphasize one player. Fans were stunned. Why would a league fighting for survival refuse the one thing that was giving them life? That's when the first major twist dropped. The whistleblower revealed the biggest secret yet. Certain veteran players allegedly pressured the league to pull back on Caitlin Clark's spotlight. Fans had sensed it. Commentators hinted at it. Some players' interviews felt tense, passive-aggressive, jealous. And now, the reason was out. Veterans didn't want to be overshadowed by a rookie. They didn't want their years of work eclipsed by one player's momentum. They didn't want to admit she changed the league in months, something they couldn't do in years. Or the article quoted a supposed message from a veteran to a front office contact. "We're not props in the Caitlin Clark show." Another message said, "Make the league about the WNBA, not just her." Suddenly, the viewers understood the shade, the cold shoulders, the subtle digs, the forced smiles, the tension during post-game questions. It wasn't drama, it was resentment. But the twist wasn't over. The whistleblower revealed a document labeled Market Stability Strategy, Phase 2. Inside it, a plan to strategically reset narratives around WNBA stars, to reframe certain players as dominant forces, faces of the league, and pioneers, deliberately pushing them above Caitlin in media graphics, highlight reels, and promotions. They weren't just ignoring her. They were actively trying to replace her. One slide allegedly read, "Correct imbalance. Reestablish hierarchy." Fans were outraged. Hierarchy? In a league struggling for attention? Why sabotage success when the league is finally winning? Why fight the player bringing in money, viewers, fans? But then, the story took a darker turn. A second whistleblower came forward, confirming the sabotage, but adding something even more explosive. They wanted her popularity to slow down because they couldn't control her. Control. That word echoed across every corner of the internet. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player. She was a brand, a phenomenon, a once-in-a-generation force. And she didn't come through the league's usual pipeline. She wasn't crafted, she wasn't manufactured, she wasn't guided by WNBA hands. She came in bigger than the league's structure. And organizations hate what they can't control. Executives allegedly worried that she could negotiate higher pay, she could influence rule changes, she could shift sponsorship preferences, she could dictate scheduling, she could overshadow veterans, she could outgrow the league entirely, which meant one thing. The WNBA wanted to humble her. They wanted to show the world. We made Caitlin Clark successful, not the other way around. And that's when they made their biggest mistake. They launched a public campaign called Strength in Numbers. The entire purpose? To spotlight every player except Caitlin. The rollout was painful. Posters featuring every star but her. Montages with zero Caitlin highlights. Interviews where players avoided mentioning her. Not a media day where she wasn't selected as a featured athlete. Fans noticed immediately. One viral comment said, "The WNBA is trying so hard to pretend they don't know who pays their bills." Another, "This is insecurity on a league-wide level." And then the downfall hit at full force. A massive nationally televised game was promoted as the future of the WNBA, hyped for 2 weeks straight, pushed on every channel, backed by enormous sponsorship. There was only one problem. It didn't feature Caitlin Clark. The league wanted to prove they had other stars. They wanted to prove viewership wasn't dependent on her. They wanted to reclaim their narrative. But instead, the game bombed. Historically low ratings, barely any crowd, sponsors furious, executives shocked, and media roasting the league for its failed experiment. But the most humiliating part? Caitlin Clark's regular season practice session the same day got more views on social media than the nationally televised game, and the WNBA couldn't hide anymore. Their plan backfired. Their strategy collapsed. Their attempt to humble her just humbled them. But this wasn't the biggest twist. Because right after the disaster, right when the owners were panicking behind closed doors, right when fans started demanding explanations, a leaked audio recording surfaced. One that would expose everything. The leaked audio didn't just shake the internet, it cracked the entire foundation of the WNBA. Before the public even heard it, whispers were circulating that something catastrophic had been recorded behind the scenes. Executives were panicking. EPR teams were scrambling. Brand partners were demanding answers. Someone inside the league had pressed record at the exact wrong moment, capturing a conversation that was never meant to leave that room. When the audio finally dropped, it didn't leak through some sports journalist or mainstream outlet. No, it leaked on a small burner account, posted at 3:17 a.m., with a caption that simply read, "Here's the truth they're hiding." The clip was less than 30 seconds long, but it detonated through social media like dynamite tied to a jet engine. The voices weren't identified, but the tone, the tension, the urgency, unmistakable. It was a group of executives discussing Caitlin Clark. And the line that made the world stop breathing? If she keeps outshining the league, we'll never be able to control the narrative again. There it was, their intention, their fear, their plan, exposed publicly. But the audio wasn't finished. A second voice chimed in with something even worse. "We should slow down the hype, redirect it, push other faces before she becomes too big to handle." Too big to handle. A rookie, a generational talent, a player who saved their ratings. The world was furious. But then came the bomb. A third voice whispered, "If we let her dominate the story, players will revolt." Revolt. Meaning the resentment wasn't just from executives. It was coming from inside the locker room. People immediately began dissecting the audio. Was this a coach, a general manager, a team owner, a league official? Some voices sounded familiar. Some matched cadence patterns fans had heard in interviews. The speculation was endless and relentless. But the audio wasn't the final blow. It was only the beginning. Because not even 12 hours later, another leak surfaced. This time, it was a screenshot. A real internal memo allegedly sent to team executives regarding media strategy. The subject line: Managing the Caitlin Clark Effect. Fans lost their minds. Inside the memo were bullet points that confirmed every suspicion the public had. Balance coverage to avoid disproportionate focus. Highlight veteran leadership to maintain structural hierarchy. Discourage unilateral narratives centered on a single athlete. Protect league identity from over-association with one player. But then came the most damning bullet point of all. Limit external messaging that positions Caitlin Clark as the sole driver of league growth. Limit messaging. Limit truth. Limit credit. They were actively trying to shrink the one person growing the league. Fans, analysts, celebrities, everybody was furious. A sports commentator tweeted, "Imagine fighting the very person keeping your league alive. This is self-sabotage at a world-class level." A former NBA star chimed in, "You don't build a league by dimming its brightest star. You build it by letting her light illuminate everyone." Even brands began distancing themselves, posting vague but pointed messages about authenticity and supporting athletes who elevate the game. But the real explosion? That came from the players. Some veterans went silent, a silence that screamed guilt to fans. Some rookies posted cryptic messages like, "The truth always comes out." But one message stood out from all the others. A player anonymously told a reporter, "There are players who didn't want her here because they knew she'd change everything." Change everything. Not disrupt, not overshadow. Change. But why? Why did some players fear her rise? Because Caitlin represented something the league never had before. Influence, leverage, power, the kind that shifts entire systems and threatens established hierarchies. The whistleblower returned with another reveal. Some veterans reportedly believed her presence would expose how little the league had grown over the years, that her fame would highlight uncomfortable truths. Low attendance, weak television ratings, limited sponsorship, lack of star power, and worst of all, that one rookie could succeed where the league failed. But the darkest twist wasn't about the veterans. It wasn't about the owners. It wasn't about the marketing sabotage. It was about a secret initiative hidden deep inside that internal memo. A line buried under layers of corporate jargon. Operation Reset. Re-establish balanced public perception of league talent. Operation Reset. Fans immediately labeled it the Anti-Caitlin Project. The memo detailed strategies that were chillingly specific. Selectively promote rivals. Reduce her spotlight in nationally televised segments. Prioritize alternate storylines. Strategically adjust scheduling. Manage locker room tensions privately. Suddenly, everything made sense. Those awkward interviews, those shady media questions, those forced highlight reels missing her biggest plays, those oddly timed storylines trying to elevate other players. This wasn't coincidence, it was policy, a coordinated operation designed to reverse her momentum. But then, the moment that turned this scandal into a national controversy. A final audio clip leaked. A voice, calm, confident, authoritative, said, "If we let her become the face of the league, she'll control the league. We can't allow that." The reaction was immediate. What are they afraid of? Why are they threatened by her success? Why sabotage the player saving your ratings? This is jealousy disguised as strategy. The backlash became so massive, so uncontrollable, so explosive that even WNBA officials were forced to send out rushed PR statements about unity and support for all players. But nobody believed them, because the receipts were already out. The recordings were circulating. The memos were exposed. The truth was undeniable. They didn't just try to downplay Caitlin Clark. They tried to stop her. But the worst part, according to insiders, this scandal isn't even the final chapter. The biggest leak, the one that reveals who ordered Operation Reset, hasn't dropped yet. And when that name goes public, the league may never recover. When the recordings, memos, and insider leaks hit the internet, the reaction wasn't normal outrage. It wasn't a minor PR flare-up. It wasn't a wait for the facts moment. It was an earthquake. Entire platforms shook with disbelief. Sports networks broke into live coverage. Commentators threw their scripts out. Podcasts released emergency episodes. And fans, millions of them, were unified in a level of fury the WNBA had never seen. Because this wasn't just a scandal. This was betrayal. Betrayal of the fans, betrayal of the athletes, and betrayal of the one person keeping the league relevant. Social media became a battlefield. One viral post said, "They tried to stop the only player who saved them. This is madness." Another, "Imagine being this insecure as an organization." A third, "You don't sabotage talent. You build the league around it." The comments were endless. The outrage was global. And the conversation quickly expanded beyond basketball. Celebrities started weighing in. A well-known actress tweeted, "If your league fears a star, and it's not a league, it's a fragile ego in uniform." A chart-topping musician posted, "Women's sports need stars. Why dim the brightest light you've ever had?" A popular comedian wrote, "Caitlyn gave them attention. The WNBA gave her sabotage. Y'all can't make this up." Even former Olympians joined in. This is the same old story. When a woman shines too brightly, someone tries to put a lid on her. But the reactions that stunned the internet the most came from NBA players. One superstar tweeted, "Man, this is embarrassing. Let the hoopers hoop. Don't block greatness." Another, "If a rookie boosts your numbers by 300%, maybe support her." A third, "This is jealousy. Straight up." Those tweets began trending within minutes. NBA legends, retired icons, stepped in too. One of them went viral saying, "You don't limit your star. You elevate your star. This is the opposite of how sports works." Sports analysts were even more brutal. One TV commentator stated on air, "The WNBA didn't just shoot itself in the foot. It shot itself in the chest, twice." Another said, "This isn't about Caitlyn. This is about a league terrified of someone who can outgrow them." And then came the sponsors. Oh, the sponsors. Corporate partners started issuing statements at lightning speed. Monitoring the situation. Concerned about leaked recordings. Reviewing our partnership agreement. Committed to supporting athletes who uplift the sport. Translation? They were not happy. One insider claimed that a major sponsor threatened to withdraw funding unless the league addressed the scandal honestly. Not with PR fluff, not with empty unity messages, but with real accountability. Yes, then something even more dramatic happened. Fans began organizing. Thousands launched a campaign called #LetHerShine. Millions reposted it. Some changed their profile pictures to Caitlyn's number. Others created petitions demanding the league remove any executives who participated in Operation Reset. A viral comment under one petition said, "We didn't fall in love with the WNBA. We fell in love with her. Respect the player bringing the world to your door." Stadiums, too, felt the pressure. Signs began appearing in the crowds. "Stop dimming Caitlyn. She is the league. End Operation Reset. Let her lead." Even casual sports fans who had never watched a WNBA game started following the scandal, saying, "Wait, they tried to sabotage their own star? This is insane." But here's where the story took a sinister turn. A major sports reporter claimed to have spoken with someone very close to the league office, who said, "This is only the beginning. The recordings you heard are nothing compared to what's coming." In that interview, the reporter revealed that more audio exists. Longer clips, deeper conversations, more voices, more details about the strategy to suppress Caitlyn's rise. The reporter added, "The next leak names names." The internet lost its mind. People in comment sections wrote, "Drop it now. Names? We need names. Expose the haters. Who tried to sabotage her?" Then something shocking happened. A former WNBA player, someone respected, someone with influence, posted a vague but powerful statement. Many of us knew the league would implode if the truth got out. Now it's out. She didn't deny anything. She didn't defend anyone. She didn't question the leaks. She confirmed the tension. That's when the fans realized this wasn't just a few jealous people. This wasn't just a minor strategy decision. This was a culture. A culture threatened by a rising star. But the biggest reaction of all came from a place no one expected. A journalist reported, "There is panic inside the WNBA. Not about the audio, about the video." The video? What video? The journalist explained, "There is allegedly a full recorded meeting discussing how to slow down Caitlyn's influence. It has not leaked yet, but it exists." That news detonated across the internet. People demanded its release. Threads exploded. Creators went live with countdowns. Fans swore they would boycott until it surfaced. Sponsors reportedly began asking if their names appear in the footage. The pressure was so intense, the league issued a weak statement about unity, progress, and supporting all athletes. But the public wasn't buying it. One fan summarized the mood perfectly. "We don't want unity statements. We want truth." But the truth was bigger than anyone expected. An anonymous insider posted, "The video is real, and when it drops, a lot of people will lose their jobs." And then, Caitlyn Clark doesn't even know how deep this goes yet. The world held its breath. Because now this wasn't just drama. It wasn't just sports gossip. It wasn't even scandal. This had become a war. A war between a rising superstar and an entire system built to suppress her. And the next leak? It will expose the mastermind behind Operation Reset. No one was prepared for how fast the story would spiral. After the audio, I'm after the memos. After the sponsors began tightening the pressure around the league's neck, everyone assumed the meltdown had reached its peak. Surely the WNBA couldn't possibly sink any deeper into scandal. Surely the worst had already surfaced. Surely the league, the owners, the players, the executives were now scrambling to patch the holes before the entire ship went under. But they didn't know the iceberg was still coming. Because the next leak didn't arrive in the form of a recording. It didn't come from an anonymous memo. It didn't come from blurry screenshots or shady burner accounts. It came from inside the walls of the league itself. A bombshell report, 10 pages long, was sent to a major journalist with one chilling message attached. "Everyone is blaming the wrong group. Look higher." That line alone froze the internet. Look higher? Higher than the executives caught on audio? Higher than the owners mentioned in the memos? Higher than the players rumored to resent her rise? The journalist opened the report and immediately realized why the sender hid their identity. Because this wasn't just about jealousy, or insecurity, or power struggles, or protecting the hierarchy. This was a long-term strategy, allegedly designed months before Caitlyn Clark even entered the league. A preemptive strike. The report detailed a confidential initiative, an internal protective measure, to prevent any one player from becoming bigger than the league's infrastructure. It warned that superstar inflation could lead to revenue imbalances, negotiation leverage, and disproportionate media spotlight. And the most shocking part? That this initiative wasn't created because of Caitlyn Clark. It existed before her. She just triggered it. She was the first player powerful enough to activate a system designed to contain talent. Inside the leaked report were highlighted passages like, "Ensure no single athlete becomes irreplaceable. Redirect attention when individual branding threatens parity. Maintain league control over public narratives at all costs." Those 3 sentences set off a nuclear reaction online. People realized this wasn't just about Caitlyn Clark. The league had been preparing for years to suppress any breakout star who became too big. She was simply the first one they couldn't contain quietly. But the twist grew darker. The final page of the leaked document referenced emergency protocol activation. No explanation. No details. Just a time-stamped note saying the protocol was triggered 2 months into Caitlyn's rookie season. Fans began connecting dots. 2 months into the season was when the strange scheduling began, when broadcasters started minimizing her highlights, when the balanced marketing suddenly kicked in, when the interviews got awkward, when the players' energy shifted. It all lined up. But the most explosive part of the leak wasn't the system. It was the alleged mastermind behind it. Inside the report was an email header, blurred but readable enough, showing that the initiative came from the uppermost level of WNBA leadership, well above team owners, coaches, or players. Someone at the top, someone with power, someone who could direct entire teams, someone who could shape narratives across the whole league. And when fans realized this wasn't a few jealous veterans or a handful of insecure owners, it was a coordinated order from above, everything changed. People began speculating about who that leader could be. Whispers spread like wildfire. Threads exploded with theories. Sports analysts started naming possibilities live on air. Sponsors demanded behind-the-scenes explanations. And then, the final twist dropped. The journalist revealed the last sentence of the leak, a message from the whistleblower. The video everyone is talking about? It doesn't expose the players, it exposes the league. The internet went insane. Wait, what video? The private meeting recording? The alleged room where they planned to sabotage her? The journalist clarified. There is a video, a full meeting, an entire conversation. I'm the source of Operation Reset, and it was accidentally recorded by an internal device. Fans lost it. Post it. Expose them. The truth is coming. This is bigger than we thought. Even more chilling, the whistleblower said, once that footage drops, one person at the top will have to resign. It will destroy their career. Which person? Which role? Which level? Which executive? They didn't say. They only added, it's not who the public thinks. That last line sent shockwaves through every platform. If it's not who everyone assumes, who is it? A commissioner? A senior board member? A high-level strategist? A media director? A league architect? Nobody knows. But one thing is certain. The footage exists. It's already been shared privately. Multiple journalists have confirmed they've seen enough to validate credibility. And now, it's only a matter of time before that video leaks. When it does, the entire WNBA structure may collapse from the inside. Reputations will shatter, sponsors will flee, fans will riot, players will revolt. And Caitlin Clark? She will walk out of this not weakened, not humbled, but elevated as the woman who unintentionally brought an entire corrupt system crashing down. The final leak hasn't dropped, but the world is waiting, refreshing, watching, because the moment that footage hits the public, the truth will burn everything. Now that everything has been exposed, the recordings, the memos, the whistleblowers, the sabotage, the jealousy, the hidden agenda at the very top, the question hanging over the entire sports world is the one nobody can ignore anymore. What happens when that video finally leaks? Because it will leak. Everyone knows it. Journalists know it. Insiders know it. Executives can feel it tightening around them. And when that footage drops, when the world sees exactly who orchestrated the scheme to suppress the league's brightest star, it won't just be a scandal, it will be a reckoning. So now it's your turn to speak. Drop your thoughts in the comments, loudly, boldly, unapologetically. Tell the world what you think. Do you believe the WNBA leadership was actively trying to sabotage its biggest star? Do you think this Operation Reset was fear-based, ego-based, or full-on corruption? Do you think the veterans were pressured into resentment, or were they part of the agenda? And the biggest question, who do you think is the mastermind behind the sabotage? Because the internet is already choosing sides. Some say it was a power-hungry executive. Some say it was jealousy from within the league. Some say it was a coordinated effort by multiple leaders. Others are convinced it was one person, one decision-maker, pulling every string from the shadows. Your comment can spark the next debate. Your theory can ignite the next viral thread. Your voice can push this story into the mainstream until the full truth comes out. So make sure to hit that like button if this blew your mind. Share this video with someone who still has no idea how deep this scandal goes. And absolutely make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next update, the next leak, the next bombshell could drop at any moment. The journalists are ready, the whistleblowers are watching, and the footage is already circulating privately. The WNBA tried to hide the truth, but the truth is about to expose them. Stay locked in, stay loud, stay ready. Because the next chapter, it's going to change everything.